Oh, yeah! We are back with a brand new RaceGuru Thunder Hour episode. I am your host for today, Sean Engel. You can find me at X or other social media platforms at SeanE247. And with me today, once again, we got the Marlin, the Kingfish himself, DFS Marlin, Mark Hogan. How you doing today, Mark?
Let's go, Sean. I'm doing well, and nice profitable weekend last weekend. So excited to break down the races from last weekend, and man, we've had a lot of football too. So in the midst of football season as well, it's go time at Fantasy Guru.
Oh, yeah, it really is go time. And, speaking of Fantasy Guru, that is where we come from. That's what we're a part of. And Fantasy Guru, you mentioned it with the NFL. The NFL packages and the guide are available now, so you can go ahead and hop on to it with that, getting those right at fantasyguru.com right there. This is, there's no time like the present in order to get any of the packages for NFL or get involved with any of the content there. So much to go around, but you can try your best to catch up with all of it. But either way, getting some of the content is better than none of the content, because then you'll be ready for NFL regular season when it hits, because that is coming up. It'll probably be here before you know it. So go ahead and get that right there.
We're gonna be hammering NFL DFS in the regular season. I mean, right now, obviously, a lot of people are in the midst of their redrafts and getting all of their actual teams ready, but the prep starts now from a DFS perspective too. So if you want to win big, get in now, get in on some of the articles that are coming out on a daily basis so you are ready for this year, because I can tell you right now, I've already done hours of prep for week one, and that's a huge advantage when you have the extra time. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of people out there that aren't going to start looking at their NFL lineup until Tuesday of week one.
Yeah, which is really crazy in order to think right there. But if for some reason you aren't into NFL, well, Fantasy Guru has you covered with other sports too. We got MLB content still available, MLB packages that you can get to get you ready for the rest of the regular season and the MLB playoffs, which will be here before we know it too. But you also have other options for other sports if you want to get it all at once, including MVP, Platinum, VIP, or all-in packages. Hit up support at fantasyguru.com in order to get the best possible deal. Get on their good side, and they may even throw a discount or two your way. But, just let them know that we sent you there, and they'll hook you up right there. But don't forget, in order to like, subscribe, leave comments, just interact with us, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Discord. We want to hear from you. Trust us, we do want to hear from you. So go ahead and do all of that. But Mark, now we got to talk some racing here. So before we get into the stuff for this week here at Daytona, because it is a big week for NASCAR as it is, we got to talk about this past weekend right here with Richmond. So short track racing was the nature of the game the past week here. So we had two races. We had the Truck Series race and we had the Cup Series race right there. Corey Heim ended up winning the Truck Series race, and then the Cup Series race, well, Austin Dillon finally did it again. He won at Richmond once again, but this time with no controversy and legitimately earning the victory right there. How do you feel about the past weekend slate of races there, Mark?
Yeah, I enjoyed the Cup race. I was looking over some of your guys' prep from last week, and I had Austin Dillon in one of my lineups, so that was really exciting. Trucks, I don't know, that seemed kind of disappointing. It was just the Corey Heim, Ty Majeski show for the most part. Overall, I enjoyed it. It was there were some disappointing occurrences. Some people who fell back. I'm trying to remember in the Cup race who I had in my second. I had one lineup that cashed and one lineup that did not, and it was mainly because I had two guys that just completely fell on their face. I'm trying to see if I can remember that or pull it up here. Yeah, so it was
the RFK guys.
Priest, man. Yeah, Priest.
Yeah.
And then Christopher Bell, too, was very surprising, him falling back. And I'm not even sure what happened there. Um, he had like a speeding penalty maybe at some point.
Yeah, there was just some bad luck with a bunch of those Toyota drivers that ended up hitting them right there this past week, Mark. You could talk about Bubba Wallace leading the most laps in the entire race. Had one of the cars to beat, but then lost a tire in the middle of pit road that ended his chances of winning. Or you can talk about Denny Hamlin with his pit crew struggles over the past weekend, despite also having one of the fastest cars. Man, Toyota just couldn't get it done, but a team.
I mean, Reddick too.
Yeah, Reddick as well. Hamlin was the only Toyota driver to even finish in the top 10 in the Cup race, in the 10th position right there, Mark.
Man, that's just Toyota for you, though. Although it might be a different story this week with some of those guys, but I don't know. We'll see. Chase Elliott, that was another huge disappointment. So several drivers here that, for whatever reason, you thought would be able to show up and didn't, and then you had a lot of surprises. Daniel Suarez, there was some data on Suarez that was interesting, and I think the recency bias really pushed me off of him because I was considering him around that price point. It was just too hard to convince myself to roster him, though, given how he's been doing recently and kind of the long term angle with him. Zane Smith.
Zane finishing 11th right there.
I feel bad. There was someone in the Discord that was looking at him, and I said, steer clear. I'm not interested. He ended up crushing it too. So whoever that was, I do feel bad directing you out other than Zane Smith.
But what was pretty surprising right there, Mark, was seeing all three of the Team Penske drivers inside the top 5 right there, 3rd through 5th. I mean, we expected Joey Logano in order to perform pretty good at this track, and then even Blaney, even though historically he's never done pretty good at Richmond, he has been pretty fast on the shorter tracks, but I think we have to give a shout out to Austin Cindric right there, finishing in the 5th spot. I actually mentioned him as a driver that could potentially be a sneaky option for DFS on last week's show, and man, he really did deliver right there.
Yeah, Cindric, I mean, like you said, Team Penske in general, Cindric just overall, I think has, this season elevated his game. He's kind of moved into that next tier of drivers, in my opinion. He was kind of a middle of the pack type of driver beforehand, and now he's right there with Logano and Blaney. I think he's up there. But a lot of chalk too, man. I mean, Kyle Busch, he was pretty chalky. So was Ross Chastain and Joey Logano. But then you had Priest and Hamlin, who were some of the chalkiest plays that were both pretty disappointing for their price points.
Yeah, even Chris Buescher as well. Started in the 12th position, ended up finishing 30th, about 2 laps off the pace right there.
It's like it just goes to show if there's a lot of chalk, like it's not all gonna hit. Probably 50% of it. So you have to pick and choose your spots. If you're picking more than 3 drivers that are 45% or higher in ownership, you're probably screwing up somewhere along the way.
Yeah, truly. Just a few more names and stuff to call out right here from the show last week. Both Rich and I last week, we mentioned Josh Berry as a driver in order to watch for this week's race. He certainly proved that right there with another top 10 run at Richmond in the 8th position right there, Mark. And then we also a couple of bets that Rich and I have mentioned last week, including Josh Berry to finish in the top 10. Both mentioned by Rich and myself did hit. Austin Dillon finishing top 10. Well, I mean, he won the race right there, so that obviously hit. Josh Berry beating out Chris Buescher in the head-to-head. I called that out last week on this show when he was plus 135 to beat Buescher. That ended up hitting right there, too. And then the Group C winner at the time of this show had Brad Keselowski as the top finisher right there, too. So he finished in the 9th position. And then the Truck Series race, I did end up calling the winner in the Discord right there for Corey Heim, and I did end up basically saying that Corey LaJoie was going to end up having a good day. He did just that, finishing top 5, and he also beat Lane Riggs in a head-to-head bet right there, Mark.
Him and Ruggiero, big moves from the back in that race. Big moves. And that was almost a foreshadowing moment for things to come in the cup race for some of those guys that started towards the back as well. So it just goes to show, if you got speed on a track like this, on a one-off, you might be able to get a few guys that can move their way all the way up before they get lapped. They just got to get moving early. And that's why it's so important to watch practice and qualifying and all that good stuff too.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And one other driver to mention from the Cup race that I have to just kind of mention there was Alex Bowman. By the end of the race, he was actually making a charge at Austin Dillon for the win, but just did not have enough time. He ended up finishing second once again, so he continues another finish with another streak of solid finishes with his fourth top 10 finish in the last 5 cup races. But now he's going to be heading into Daytona as pretty much the last driver on the cut line right there. And although nobody could catch him on points, if there's a new winner, it's going to be crazy between him and Tyler Reddick for the last theoretical spot right there, Mark.
I think Alex Bowman, he's got to qualify in the top 15. So I think he's got to have a goal of qualifying towards the front end of the track, so that he can fight off any drivers in the playoffs that inch their way up there towards the end of the race. That's ultimately, it's almost like playing defense mode for the season, not just for the race.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the thing is, too, is that he's got to watch for Reddick right there. That's his biggest opponent more than anything, because if a new winner is there, it's just going to be a flat-out points battle between him and Reddick has a bit of a cushion against Alex Bowman right there, about 29 points.
I feel like Bowman is kind of like the new Busher. It's like now one of the newer Mr. Top 10 type of guys. Another driver I feel like that's kind of made progress this season and entered that lower end of the upper tier portion of drivers now.
Yeah, DraftKings and FanDuel still hasn't fully caught on to that, though. But hey, we'll take advantage of it as much as we can, right?
100%. Yeah. Although, depending on, and then Briscoe is another one where Briscoe, they are starting to price him up at this point.
Definitely, especially depending on the type of track it is. Like, you notice this week they aren't going to price him as high up just because the track history is not quite there. But any other type of track, if it's an oval right there, he's in that 9K range on DK now regularly.
Yep.
Alrighty. Now, we have a lot lined up for the show. I think we should put a pin on Richmond right there. I think we said all that we needed to say. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so let's head into some news stories because there is quite a bit that's been happening. The big one for the Truck Series that ended up happening this week, Matt Crafton has made it official. He's retiring from full-time truck competition after the season, and then he's going to get replaced by Ty Majeski in number 88 truck for Thor Sport Racing in 2026 right there, Mark. So Majeski, he's with Thor Sport currently as it is, but he's going to be changing numbers next year too. And he's also going to be having Matt Crafton's longtime sponsor of Menards with him. What are your first thoughts on this news?
So, I mean, if he's not switching teams, I don't think it's impactful that much. I guess it'll be cool to have someone who's a little bit more competitive at this point in their career driving the Menards car. So it's interesting. I don't think it's anything that, for at least for me, moves the needle from a DFS perspective or anything like that. But unfortunate to see Crafton, a veteran, kind of hang it up and call it a career here. So I'll kind of miss seeing that name on the ticker on a regular basis.
Yeah, especially because he's been one of the longest running veterans of the Truck Series in NASCAR history right there. I mean, you have to go back all the way to the early 2000s in order to see when he first made his debut in the Truck Series. It's been that long ago, Mark. People online have even talked about his appearance in old NASCAR games from way back in like the PlayStation 2 era. Like this one game in particular, NASCAR Dirt to Daytona. You look at the Truck Series roster right there. Crafton is the only driver in that game that was still active to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, we talked about it, but I've been following NASCAR since about 2020, 2021, sometime around then. And, every time we talk about it or get on here and talk about a new track that these guys, we don't have any data on, the one name that continues to come up on a guy that does have data at old tracks is Crafton. So, it's kind of unfortunate to not have that fallback, especially when you have instances like that where there's not as much data.
Yeah, that is truly a shame to see go away right there. But you could say that Crafton's best years have kind of been behind him, especially when the 2010s, when he was really towards at his peak performance-wise, winning his 3 championships within that decade right there. 15 Truck Series wins over time. He basically also helped build Thor Sport Racing into the powerhouse that it ended up becoming. So,
Yeah,
right there.
but it's time. I agree. He seemed, especially this year, it seemed like he kind of fell off a little bit and wasn't meeting the standards that he normally does on certain tracks that he would typically have success at.
Yeah, but now Majeski's going to be changing numbers once again for the 3rd time since joining ThorSport. He's changing numbers yet again right there. So, going to have to get used to that as it is.
It'll be a little weird. That's for sure.
Indeed it is. But, speaking of things getting a change, how about we talk about this?
This is weirder.
NASCAR's secondary series is going to have a new name for 2026, the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, which that replaces the now current name of the NASCAR Xfinity Series right there. So we have another sponsor change for the second series in NASCAR right there. Because Xfinity, their deal as the title sponsor of this series is up after the season, and they decide not to renew that. Xfinity is still going to remain as a sponsor and a partner, just not in name for this series. So O'Reilly Auto Parts has stepped up to it, Mark.
It's going to be hard not to call it Xfinity. It's so much easier when it's like a one-word sponsor. The O'Reilly Auto Parts race, it's a lot to say, and I don't know how long, how well that's going to catch on.
People are just going to call it the O'Reilly series. That's really what I think they're just going to say.
The O'Reilly series, the O'Reilly race. I guess we'll have to get used to it.
It's interesting because O'Reilly Auto Parts has been a long-time NASCAR sponsor there too, and this is the first time that they're going to step up towards this kind of level in order to host a secondary series. So it's pretty interesting to see. They've been a grassroots sponsor for many, many years, sponsoring different teams, sponsoring NASCAR themselves. So it's interesting to have a sponsor that kind of connects a little bit more at the grassroots level, Mark.
Gonna have that jingle that's just gonna be even more stuck in my head than it already was.
Would you rather take the jingle, or would you rather take every driver saying that their cars are as fast as Xfinity Internet?
I'm good with that. I've started to say that myself, so it's probably better than my internet. That's for damn sure.
I've never tried Xfinity Internet to know how good it is, but I guess
I hear it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I've heard good reviews.
Yeah, maybe. Might be worth trying one day. Might be. All right. So before we got on the show today, this was not originally planned initially to cover, but this is a very huge story that we did end up having to cover right here. But NASCAR finally released the schedules for 2026 for all 3 series, Mark. So I know you talked about that you were basically looking at each of the schedules right there and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But yeah, there's a lot of little highlights right here to discuss, Mark. What are your initial thoughts on the schedules?
So we were talking about the All-Star race. That's going to be in Dover. I'm kind of disappointed in that. I'd like to see a points race in Dover. North Wilkesboro gets the points race, so that's an interesting move, and obviously there was probably some support for that. No Mexico City and no Chicago street race, so I'll take that for San Diego and Chicagoland.
Let me put the schedule up here for Cup while you're discussing that while we're on that. There we go. Now it's up on screen.
Love the fact that we get O'Reilly, a second Darlington date in the O'Reilly series. That's going to be weird to say. Yeah, those are the big ones. And then what I'm really excited about is the trucks race at the St. Pete Street course. I'm going to go to that.
Really?
Yeah, I live in Tampa, so why would I not go to that? That's going to be an easy one.
Oh man, you know what? That's perfect because for the truck series, you can actually go there and see 2 different motorsports at once because that's the same weekend that the IndyCar series is also going to be there too. So they're going to have the truck series race before IndyCar right there, and then you can be able to watch both right
And
there.
that, honestly, to me, the trucks race will be a bigger deal than the IndyCar race. So I'm excited about that. It'll probably be less expensive from a ticket standpoint. I can probably get a pretty good spot there, and I'm certainly going to throw some money on that one. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, Fox bait because they also own the rights to IndyCar too now for broadcasting purposes. It makes perfect sense for them in order to pair it all up together that same weekend as it is. So actually, that there was not many rumors or discussion about St. Petersburg even being a thing for the truck series. So I found that to be pretty interesting. I'm curious to see how the trucks are going to handle it, and overall, it's interesting to see that for the truck series, there's going to be more road courses this year. Because this year we've had 3 different races at road courses. Next season it's going to end up being 5.
Yeah, that is an interesting element because I feel like they have a harder time getting the trucks around on the road courses for sure. That would, and it's interesting to see these trucks go on a road course for the first time. We just saw that, didn't we just see that at
A few weeks ago at Lime Rock Park, which is back again for 2026. So,
and it's like you have no idea what's going to happen. You don't know. You have no idea how they're going to handle the tires. Like you really just it's hard to figure out. But it makes it interesting. It makes it exciting because of the unknown.
all I know is that Rich Mileto is somewhere out there kicking and screaming in the air saying that this is too many road courses. And I don't blame him because the truck series is usually at its bread and butter on short tracks. That is where they cut their cloth. But I'm a little curious to see at least St. Petersburg, and they're going to San Diego right there too, which is the other new one being added to trucks. So that could be interesting too.
Yeah, that will be interesting. Looking back on the Cup side, though, Phoenix going to the first race in the semifinal round, and then Miami. Miami's the championship race for every series.
Yeah, I am very excited to see that because out of all the different tracks that NASCAR's put on for the finale, Homestead has been king, Mark. I mean, you look back towards way before they started taking the finale to Phoenix. Homestead had so many memorable moments and has such great racing there. I mean, we've even seen it in the past few years that Homestead's been putting on a better racing show than Phoenix has overall. So very excited to see that back right there.
Kyle Larson's kind of our guy in Homestead, right?
Yeah, you got that right. I'm sure he's pretty thrilled in order to see that too.
Oh yeah. For sure.
So let's just keep going through the rest of the notes, highlights and notes here for the Cup schedule. You mentioned about the All-Star race moving to Dover in May. Watkins Glen is moving to May for Mother's Day weekend, and that actually bumps the first Darlington race all the way back to March right there. So that's notable in order to change, because Watkins Glen has traditionally been in the summer, but now it's going to be going inside the spring, which is not
It's
usual
concerning.
territory for it.
Yeah, I mean, upstate, that's upstate New York in May. I mean, that could be concerned about the weather, I guess, for that.
Yeah, especially because sometimes during May, that's when it starts to get a little more rainy outside. I mean, coming from New York, I would know a little more about that. So there you
Yeah,
go.
100%. I think I'm curious the logic behind that one for sure. And then I love the fact that the in-season challenge that's going to return. And we're going to see it in Sonoma. At least we'll see it in Sonoma instead of Atlanta on a super speedway. I'm sure they have a
Atlanta's
super
still going to
speedway.
be there for the challenge, but at least it's not the first race anymore. We'll get 2 races before they head to Atlanta. So
Just to not wreck the whole bracket in the first round at this time.
yeah, and then in the between Atlanta and Sonoma, we got the return of Chicagoland, so that's going to be fun. Chicagoland, I'm not sure if you've seen much of the racing there before, Mark, but some people call that the sister track towards Kansas Speedway, and Kansas has been one of the best overall tracks in the past few years, Mark.
Yeah. And Chicagoland, I remember from all those arcade racing games. It was like Chicagoland and Daytona. I forget what arcade game I would always play. But yeah, I'm excited to see that one back.
Oh, heck yeah. Chicagoland's going to be awesome. So, also, now we're going to have 2 off weekends, not just 1 off weekend, but 2 off weekends for the Cup Series next year. Once after Martinsville in April for Easter, and then the other one is right after Indianapolis, right after the in-season tournament concludes. So, 2 off weekends right there, Mark.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind having the breaks. Kind of a weird one for that second one, I feel like, to have an off weekend August 2nd. I don't know. I guess they've taken off around the same time as well, like a couple years ago when they had the Olympics, they were off.
Yep. So New Hampshire's been taken out of the playoffs for next season too, as well. That is another change as it stands.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. It's kind of whatever in my opinion.
All right, cool. We didn't talk too much about the O'Reilly Xfinity schedule as it is, but they also got some changes right there too. They're getting a second Darlington date in March, so they'll be doing the Cup going along with the Cup Series right there, Mark. And they're also going to visit Kansas in April instead of the fall right there, because the trucks will instead take the fall date over there instead of the secondary series. And also the O'Reilly series will no longer visit Portland, as instead they're going to be going over to Darlington for that date.
I'll take it. That works. We were talking about it off the air, but Xfinity, or O'Reilly, I should say now, for next year, that racing was the best racing this season, in my opinion. So I'll take whatever they throw on the Xfinity schedule. I think it's the most exciting racing in all 3 series so far.
Now, the other thing to keep a note of is that I know they currently have it set up with all 3 series that they're going to have the multi-round playoffs as it is. Now, Ben Kennedy, who works for NASCAR and all that, he's one of the higher ups. He basically did mention that the playoff format, although it's likely to stay the same next year, there's still talk and there's still a chance that they might tweak things about the playoffs next year. So we have to keep an eye on that in case that changes anything with the scheduling regarding that too.
I'd like to see a change. It feels a little stale right now, the way it's currently set up.
Yeah. I mean, I've made it clear before that I personally prefer the full season points format or just going back to the original chase format if they're going to do any playoff changes. Like, if you have to have the playoffs, I like how the original chase was set up. Just keep how the points are scored now, but put it in the chase format. That's how I always like to view it. But I do think that the way that the playoffs has ran before has just kind of ran its course, or at the very least, I'm kind of not a fan of win and get in.
Of win and get in. I don't mind that element to it. But it does kind of just, it changes the complexity to the format on a week to week basis. And I don't know how I feel about that. So I agree on the overall impact on how it plays out. But I'm not against the specific elements of win and get in.
I think if you have to include something like that, I think you got to put a cap on it. So that way drivers that aren't from like all the way at the back of all the regulars in points. Like, we don't want a case like last year. I don't like a case like last year where Harrison Burton, on this very week, mind you, at Daytona, ended up winning his way into the playoffs when he was about, like 32nd or 33rd in points last year.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that would be that's a good solution to offer too, where it's like, hey, maybe you have to hit a bare minimum level of points. If you win a race, you still got to get a bare minimum set of points to secure a playoff spot.
It used to actually be like that before, Mark, too, where they used to have a whole thing where you had to be at least top 30 in points before a win could count for eligibility. But they got rid of that.
It's like Alex Bowman, right? It's like Alex Bowman is cracking top 10s on a week-to-week basis, and then you'll get like a Cody Ware that'll pull a win out of there type of thing because everyone wrecked on the speedway.
Yeah, you mentioned Alex Bowman. If it was just based on points, he's currently 9th in points right there. And then you have Tyler Reddick in 7th, or you also even have Chris Buescher right there. He's 11th in points. You get a new driver winning. Basically, you're going to get a guy that's 11th up in the standings be knocked out of the entire thing, Mark.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a full-time driver at the bottom, like maybe like a Cole Custer or something. Cole Custer, is he full-time driving?
Yeah, he's full-time.
So it's like you get Cole Custer to like pull off a super speedway race, and then all of a sudden he's in over like Chris Buescher, who's just knocking out a top 10 every week.
Yeah. I mean, Custer only has one top 10 finish in the entire season, whereas Buescher has 12.
Or Riley Herbst, or even like a Ty Dillon, just one of these guys, just a Justin Haley coming up with a super speedway win, like any of these guys, it can happen with. So,
yeah, absolutely crazy. Before we fully get into this week's race, just one more update right here. Now, earlier on in the week, Justin Marks at Trackhouse, he got on to Sirius XM radio, and he gave an update on Connor Zilisch, saying that right now, as it stands, Connor Zilisch could be a game-time decision for his participation in Daytona this week in the Xfinity Series. He's currently listed on the entry list as it stands right now, but himself and a team of doctors and other staff are going to probably make the call later on in the week to see if Zilisch is going to end up returning at Daytona or a different week.
I mean, that was a violent fall out of that truck. He fell, the whole place went quiet, and he was carried out on a stretcher.
Yeah.
He's got a collarbone injury. You know, I know you brought up the point, like there have been other drivers in the past that have done this, but if this was a road course, I'd feel a little bit more okay about it. We're talking about going to a super speedway where we can see some crazy, crazy wrecks, particularly in the Xfinity Series where these cars They're fast. They drive like some of the old cars. Like, I don't know. To me, this kind of sounds like wishful thinking more than anything.
Yeah, because really, we've seen how long it takes in order to fully recover from collarbone injuries before a NASCAR, and a full recovery takes at least about maybe between 5 to 8 weeks, as it's been stated in the past, right there.
This happened 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, because Xfinity was off the past weekend, so there was an extra 1 week gap in between since when it happened.
He had surgery 8 days ago. Like this would be clinically insane. I can't see any doctor clearing this kid. And if they do, then that's malpractice in my opinion.
I don't agree with him starting regardless as it stands. But what I can see them doing is they might try to do the whole classic case of have the driver start the race so that way he can still score points, but then have a substitute race the entire rest of the race after the first lap.
Okay, so what? He's going to go lap down, 1 lap in?
Well, the thing is that for a track like this, there's still a chance that you might be able to maintain yourself on the lead lap just because Daytona is that big of a track as it is. So, and
Fair.
even if he is a lap down, well, I mean, he'd be the only one a lap down, and as soon as a caution comes out, he's already back in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not like a short track where that could absolutely maybe kill your entire day. Like, it's not Richmond where you'd go with maybe 2 or 3 if you just had to pit road under green conditions, Mark.
Think about this, though. He hurt his collarbone climbing out of the car. So what? He's gonna at a very high pace jump out of the try and climb out of the door very quickly so he doesn't fall a lap down. Like, even just the concept of someone who broke their collarbone and had surgery 8 days ago trying to climb out of a car is that's concerning. I don't even know if he can do that.
Yeah, it's wild in order to even think.
I don't know. It seems a little far-fetched to me, but we'll see.
Either way, this is a storyline that going into this weekend, if you're playing DFS or doing any betting, that you may want to follow this, especially because at this time of us recording, a substitute driver has not been named for Zilich, so we do not know who's going to be in that car if Zilich doesn't end up racing. So there you go.
Yeah, that's something to keep a very close eye on, and I'm probably going very light if I play any at all on that race, quite frankly, this weekend.
Well, I mean, even without the Zilich injury factor, you probably go light regardless, just because it's Daytona.
Exactly.
But, speaking of Daytona, how about we talk about that some more and actually preview it? I mean, you kind of already started leading us off right there with the fact that you'll go light this weekend, but that's just because Daytona is just a chaotic racetrack, to put it plainly right there. Draft racing, pack racing, I mean, you'll get positions that can swap hands, especially at the Xfinity Series level pretty often. Cup, it's going to be all about getting partners to go with you in order to make moves, and wild crashes that could happen at any time, taking out whole portions of the field. So if you like tracks like this and you want to, in order to get yourself a better chance of actually cashing out, then you got to put in multiple lineups with different driver combinations. Otherwise, you take the opposite approach and go as light as possible and just hope everything hits.
Yeah, I think my thought process too is when I build my lineups, I'm looking at, like you said, if we're looking for pairings, looking for teammates, some stacks. So maybe do like, for example, Team Penske, Team Hendrick Motorsports type of stack or something like that. But also consider where these guys start in the field. So, if you stack Team Penske and Blaney's starting 10th and Logano's starting 13th, maybe you stack, I'm trying to think of, so maybe you stack Hendrick Motorsports because Larson's starting 12th and Bowman's starting 15th. And the reason why I point that out there is because maybe you can get 2 stacks where all the guys start in the same spot, And those guys have a clean race because they're all grouped together around the same area of the lineup. Whereas if you stack and you're spread out where one group is in the front, one group's in the back of the pack, there's a greater chance that somewhere along the way your lineup's going to get wrecked because there's going to be inevitable wrecks that happen here.
Oh, definitely. And starting position is definitely very important in order to know how to succeed at a track like this, and qualifying is going to be super important. We aren't going to get any real practice sessions because they never usually do so at Daytona or Talladega, but this type of track, we've seen the different types of pack racing this year, and here's an interesting thing, Mark. You look towards the last 3 races at this style of racing, which were the 2 Atlanta races and then Talladega. I'm not going to count Daytona because the way they set the starting positions was through the duels, and that's not based on speed like we're going to see this week compared to the other 3 times we've been at this style of racing this year. I look back towards the past results. You look at the top 10 finishers in the first Atlanta race in February. You know how many drivers started in the top 10 of that? Only 2 drivers ended up finishing inside the top 10. And that was the same case in Talladega earlier this year as well. And as for the second Atlanta race, which is our most recent race at this style of racing, only 3 drivers started inside the top 10 and finished inside the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, place differential is going to be huge. So this is definitely, we've changed modes again, and that's what I love about NASCAR DFS is like different tracks create a whole different DFS game. So now we're like, I'm hammering place differential. I don't care. I'm not concerned about guys going really laps down to a certain degree. If I get a Brad Keselowski in 34th, it didn't work last year. He didn't move as high up as we wanted him to last year, but it's going to be hard to avoid them. But going back to the point that we made earlier on the show is if there's a bunch of guys that start in the back that are chalky plays, like a Brad and a Larson and a Blaney, those types of names, just know probably not all of them are going to work out. So you got to pick and choose your poison.
Yeah, picking very carefully is the nature of the game right there, too. And even then, this is not the sort of track where you want to rely on dominators in order to anchor your lineups as much right there, too. Like, just because a driver seems to have speed and starts right at the front, that they're basically a humongous risk in order to use them, because if a driver's starting in first, you want to expect them in order to dominate a race. And at a track like this, that's just not going to happen unless your name is Joey Logano or Austin Cindric or Brad Keselowski, who actually know how to lead laps for a period of time at this place.
But even that, it's like, here's the thing again, you spin out, it's like practically the same type of damage as having a wreck type of thing because you're going all the way to the back. It's not like you go to the 20th spot or the 15th spot because a bunch of guys are laps down. So, it is very uncommon to see someone just lead 150 laps in a race like this. It's almost unheard of. I don't think it's ever been done, probably. But I think we just have to be very wary of that. It's a different style of racing. We're targeting place differential, and we need to have drivers that have a clean race and don't get wrecked out.
Truly, that's really all that it is. And for the betting side of things, instead of normal unit counts that you would normally want to have for this race, I think the better strategy is just to split that unit count in half, spread that to more drivers, especially because if you're trying to do a bunch of different bets to spread it around the different drivers, the thing about Daytona and other tracks like this is that the odds are going to be jumping up higher than average as well, just because of the unpredictable nature of this style of racing.
Don't be afraid to chase a bunch of mixed chickens too. This is the type of race where you go after the plus 6,000, the plus 8,000 type of bet because you said it last year. I mean, Harrison Burton, prime example. He was probably the odds on that one were probably insane. So
yeah, at least 100-1 if I had to wager.
And I mean, we saw it a few years ago, and this was the Daytona 500, but I think it was Austin Cindric his rookie season. And I would imagine the odds on that one were pretty slim as well.
Maybe not as deep as Harrison Burton last year, but still quite deep, I'd argue. Maybe
Yeah.
at least 60 to 80 to 1.
So feel free to chase, but go light because you're doing that because it's just so volatile, and throw a lot of the data out the window. I mean, if you look at the data, you'll see that most of the drivers in this race have wrecked on multiple occasions just within the next gen car. So it's rare to find a guy who's wrecked once, or even who's never wrecked on this track here. And that might be a sign of maybe some names to target as well as we get into that.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And that's really all that it matters for Daytona there. So before we continue onward, let's actually go through the list of notables and part-timers right here, Mark. And I'll give you the privilege of reading the Xfinity list again right here, too. I know you've been looking forward to reading the list again, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah. So this first driver, I can't say his name to kick things off, but Caesar Beccarella.
You got it right.
And the number 5 for Alpha Prime Racing. So we're going to see him, Patrick Emmerling, in the 07 SS Greenlight, Justin Haley in the Xfinity race, driving the number 11 for Colleague Racing. That's one that I'm excited about. Maybe we get a nice, fun race out of Justin Haley on a track that we could see him have some success with. And also, he gets some track time going into the Cup race. So that's actually that's intriguing. Garrett Smithley in the number 14 with SS Greenlight, Eric Amarola in the number 19 for JGR. So that's a big one because he's got some really good data out there, I would say, in Xfinity and Cup. Raja Caruth in the number 32 for Jordan Anderson Racing, Mason Maggio in the number 35 for Joey Gase Motorsports, Josh Williams in the number 45 for Alpha Prime Racing. That's an interesting one. Is it? So that's okay.
This was recent that they announced that. So yeah,
that's fascinating to see if there's any kind of additional coinciding moves that come out of that one after this weekend. Joey Gase in the number 53 for Joey Gase Motorsports, Josh Balicki in the number 91 for DJM Racing, and Natalie Decker in the number 92 for DJM Racing as well. So that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah. Like you said right there, I think Justin Haley is the most exciting name out of this whole lineup right there. He's a he's won on super speedways 4 times in the Xfinity series, and he got most of those wins when he used to drive for Colleague Racing right here. Now he's doing a one-off start for them, that number 11 car. I mean, a lot of excitement to be had right there. So looking forward to seeing that.
And it's good to see Raja Caruth. That might be another positive sign of things to come here for the Xfinity series.
Yeah. Trucks are off this week, but Raj is going to keep his skills fresh by racing at Daytona. So there you go. For the Cup Series, we have a few names right here. So we have a full field of 40, but it's all led off with Austin Hill pulling double duty by actually driving the number 33 for Richard Childress Racing. Then we also have Joey Gase also doing double duty, but he'll be driving the number 44 for NY Racing. Casey Mears is back in the number 66 for Garage 66. And then we also have BJ McLeod in the 78 once again for Live Fast Motorsports right there, Mark. I got to say that I do have some excitement for Austin Hill, and I also don't mind BJ McLeod being in that number 78 for DFS purposes there, Mark.
Yeah, I think, BJ McLeod, that's that one I'll have to do some more research on. But Austin Hill, I agree. That's exciting. And, just go look at the data for him in Xfinity, and you can see he's a super speedway type of driver. Obviously, Atlanta is this big one. But he could make some noise, and the price point is dirt cheap on him. So, I think just given his style of racing, he's a name to consider when looking at your DFS lineups this week.
Oh, certainly, for sure, right there. So do keep that in mind. As we mentioned at the top of the show, we are a part of fantasyguru.com. They're in NFL mode right now, so you can go forth and get the NFL packages or the guide right now. Get yourself prepped up for regular season NFL. But they also have MLB content still available, and the packages still available. We also have the MVP, Platinum, VIP, or all-in packages that are also available too. Fantasy Guru has a lot of good stuff for you in order to help you win some cash, either by playing DFS, season-long betting, whatever you want. They got it right there. So go forth and get that. Hit up support@fantasyguru.com for the best possible deal you can get. Send them an email. They'll try to hook you up, and that's that. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and give comments too, whether that's through Discord, through YouTube. We see it all right there. So do not be afraid to interact with us. But we will be interacting with our picks now, Mark. So let's get right on to it. Let's talk about our top price drivers in order to watch this week. You know what? I do have a confession that I have to make, Mark.
All right.
I'm nervous about this top tier, and that's not something that I normally say when I talk about the top price picks to watch, Mark. It has me uncomfortable.
I'm with you because, here's the thing, and this is how the field is going to look at it though too, because the data is just so there's no one that stands out. And so when you're looking at 10,500 price point drivers, there's nothing that's like, hey, this guy at $10,500, I'm getting my bang for my buck type of thing. And the other problem is we don't know where these guys are starting, and place differential is going to be so important when building your lineup. So it's really hard to even put any kind of faith in what we're saying tonight for this top tier. But for me, I got Joey Logano, I got William Byron, I got Brad Keselowski. Logano, this is a driver. Okay, if you're going to go after one driver that doesn't start near the back of the pack, I think he's probably one of those guys, because this is a guy that likes to, on a super speedway, kind of creep or hang around towards the front and then find his position on either restarts, or if he has made it up there or qualified high, he'll try to just hang up there for the entirety of the race. He'll get you some laps led. And if he maintains a top 10 position, he can pay off. But again, it's like $10,500. It's not overly exciting. William Byron, he's got multiple wins. And then Brad Keselowski is a driver that's on the upswing. I think he needs a win. So that's a big element to this. And this is a guy that, we can see it easily crack the top 10 in a race like this. So I want guys that have a lot of top 10 finishes here in the past. And here's the problem. These guys are all aggressive on a super speedway. Everyone has to be. So there's a 50-50 chance with every single driver that we're going to talk about tonight that they don't finish the race. So just remember that again.
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned Joey Logano. I feel like because this is another super speedway race, we kind of have to run through this point again. But Logano, he'll get your lineup to the front as it is. He's going to lead laps. He's got plenty of speed. The one thing that he struggles with doing is finishing these races. It's not for a lack of speed or lack of effort. It's just that sometimes he gets so over aggressive that he ends up taking himself and others out of these races right there. And that's been proven through the last 3 Daytona races. He is not even cracked above 30th mark. It's tough for me to recommend him with that in mind.
But here's the problem. We can name probably 25 drivers that have wrecked on multiple occasions in the next gen car since 2022. So we're talking about the majority of the field has a 50% hit rate on not finishing in this race. And so I just, even though, yes, Joey Logano himself has 3 DNFs since 2022.
Each of the last 3.
Each of the last 3. So it's almost like he's due to not have a DNF here, because they're all pretty much hitting at a 50% clip, and he's had a lot of recent ones.
Yeah, I think it's just a coin flip of whether you want to go with Logano and think he's going to finish or not, because he's pretty much boom or bust. He's either going to be right in the thick of it, maybe get you a really great finish, lead a bunch of laps, and find his way to the front, or he's going to wreck trying. That
Yeah.
I find there's not much in between with that Joey Logano in particular with that. And I do want to also mention this about William Byron too. William Byron, he ended up clinching the regular season championship as it is over the past weekend's race at Richmond. That's something that we didn't bring up initially, but I think it's important to bring up that fact right now because, well, I mean, other than just going for a win himself in order to add to his playoff total, Byron does not have much reason or motivation in order to perform well in this race right here, Mark. And I think that's something that could come into play potentially too, especially considering that if this is like a good car that he has, he may want to not wreck it so he could then use it in the playoffs when it comes to Talladega and that second race there, Mark. I think that's something that we might have to consider too this week.
And maybe he's almost there as a supporting, teammate to a Chase Elliott or an Alex Bowman. I could actually see him and Bowman qualifying around the same spot, and Byron just hanging around a top 10 position to help Bowman try to, get into a top 5, and they work together to block whatever new driver is hanging around there at the end of the race.
Yeah, I could totally see that because the other 3 Hendrick drivers, Byron, Larson, and Elliott, all have won races this year. They're in the playoffs. Their last driver, Alex Bowman, is currently not fully locked into the playoffs. So I could totally see that playing out as it is too, Mark.
This is a good reminder, though. So, Byron, let's say he qualifies 11th and finishes 6th, right? That's a good day. But for a $10,400 driver, you are not really getting the return that you're looking for out of a guy that you paid up like that. So we have to remember that maxing out our budget, it probably doesn't matter as much as other races where we want to max out our budget to get as many dominator drivers as possible. This is the type of race where we can hammer just guys in the sub 7K range and leave $10,000 on the table and knock down $100,000 tournament. So don't be afraid to get a little crazy with it and just leave a ton of salary on the table and just play a bunch of guys towards the bottom who have good place differential opportunities.
100% agree with that. I think more than anything, this is just a week in order to focus on just getting the drivers you like rather than having to worry about who's going to dominate the race, because we saw it at Talladega earlier this year. There were a lot of different lap leaders in that race, and Talladega and both Daytona in the Daytona 500 with a lot of lap leaders. It means that picking dominators is not going to be as big of a factor this week, as we mentioned before.
But I threw out Joey, but you it seems like you're on some Penske guys. So I want to hear what you think about some of his teammates here.
Yeah, and you mentioned also on your list too, Brad Keselowski is on your list. He's on my list too because I'm with you 100% there. This is Brad's only shot in order to make the playoffs right here. And he typically shows a lot of speed on these tracks, as does Ryan Blaney and Austin Cindric. And let's not also forget that Cindric won at Talladega earlier in the year too. So he shows plenty of speed on these types of tracks. So does Ryan Blaney there. Both of them also lead laps, but I think they are a little bit smarter and not as aggressive as Joey Logano, and they have a history of finishing these races a little bit better than Joey does. I think Joey may have the most speed of the 3, but I want to get the guys that finish, though, and I like Blaney and Cindric for that reason. And I especially like Cindric because he's at a little bit more of a discount compared to the other 2 Penske drivers this week, Mark.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Cindric is probably, quite frankly, the most appealing of the 3 now that we've kind of hashed that out a little bit more too. Save where you can at the top versus maxing out your spending.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's going to be a big factor that comes into play. But we mentioned about picking drivers that are more towards like the mid-tier. Let's actually get into it right here for the mid-tier drivers to watch. So on my list, I technically have 4 drivers right here to mention. I'll go with these 2 guys first here. And the first one is a name that you definitely expect in order for me to mention. That's Alex Bowman. he's in a position where he has to do well in order to make the playoffs in case there is a new winner right there. He has a history of finishing pretty well at this style of racing, typically between top 20 to top 10, but he has quite a few top 10s at Daytona right there. So I like the price for him this week at 7,800 on DraftKings. This next name, though, you may find a little bit more surprising, perhaps. Carson Hocevar. How about that one?
Talk about a driver that might be aggressive.
Yeah, he is going to be aggressive, but you know what, though? The results have actually been showing it this season, because when you look on the 4 races we've had at super speedways this season, Hocevar's finished top 10 in 3 out of the 4. And not many drivers can actually attest to that this season. So I think Hocevar, I think he's going to be a driver that may not carry as much ownership as some of these other drivers within this mid-tier. And in that sense, I think I like Hocevar as kind of an underrated play this week. But as for the other 2 drivers that are on my list this week, it's kind of split between DraftKings and FanDuel. But for DraftKings, I got some Chris Buescher right there. He's another driver there that needs in order to basically win in order to get into the playoffs. RFK typically has very fast cars on this style of racing. I think Buescher is a driver to watch this week, especially because RFK, they do not want to shut themselves out of the playoffs. And as it stands, they will be shut out if one of them does not end up winning right there. And for FanDuel, this name, this driver is a little highly priced on DraftKings, but I love the price for him on FanDuel. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., former Daytona winner in the number 47 car right here. And typically in Daytona races, he is not the strongest qualifier. He ends up qualifying towards the back, ends up really leaving some place differential on the table right there. I think that could come into play once again, Mark. I like that this week.
I like that too. That's a really good find with Stenhouse. And I would actually I would support playing him on DraftKings as well, just because of the fact that you're going to have the salary to play with. And he is easily a driver that will probably, like you said, start in the back. So it's not as risky, as crazy as that sounds when we're talking about Ricky Stenhouse for a race like this. So I love that. I love Buescher. Talk about all these top price drivers, even these mid-tier price drivers. Chris Buescher only has 1 DNF in the last 7 races in the next gen car. So this is a guy that, he's keeping it relatively cleaner. We like to refer to him as Mr. Top 10. And Alex Bowman, I'm with you on that. So going into my 3, I love Buescher. I got to say, out of all these guys, even though I didn't list Buescher, I agree wholeheartedly with him. But Bowman, for all the reasons that you said, I also have got Kyle Busch and Bubba Wallace. So Bubba Wallace, he's just been driving well. We've seen him have success at the Daytona tracks here before. We've seen 3 top 10s in the next gen car here for Bubba Wallace. So at $8,300, I'm more than willing to go there, especially if we get him starting around the 15th position or even, maybe around the 20th. And then Kyle Busch is the same type of driver. This is someone who doesn't necessarily qualify well here, but seems to make his way up through the pack. So Kyle Busch, he's averaging a starting position in the next gen car of around the 22nd spot and finishing around 13th over the course of several races with multiple or 1 top 5 and 4 top 10s in there as well. So Kyle Busch stands out to me as someone that, he is also on the upswing. He made it through last week. It wasn't the prettiest thing, but he paid off. So this is someone that I think is also have running some clean races as of recent.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I'm just going to say this, for as uncomfortable as the top tier makes me, is about how much I love the mid tier this week, Mark, because those drivers you mentioned, I also heavily considered them for my list as well. I mean, I could expand my list to 2 other drivers. I would be happy to include Kyle Busch or Bubba Wallace for that matter. Both of them have a history of racing well at this track. And I also like the potential narrative angle for Kyle Busch as well this week, because RCR got one of their cars into the playoffs last week with Austin Dillon. I mean, what's to say that the other one ends up going 2 for 2, and then they both end up in the playoffs with Kyle Busch winning this week? I think that's a potential narrative that's at play here we can consider as well, Mark.
And we've talked a lot about the DNFs, so just backtracking a little bit, but for all the reasons you said about Alex Bowman, I just want to throw out, we have not seen him wreck here yet. So he's either due or he runs it clean. And I think he probably, again, kind of going to the strategy with the playoffs, I would imagine runs this pretty conservatively and just tries to qualify pretty darn well.
Yeah, I think Bowman's strategy is going to be to try to qualify well and earn stage points to at least minimize that gap to Tyler Reddick a bit more, which, even though Reddick is another driver who I think we should not fully overlook too, because he's been top 20 in all the super speedway races this season, Bowman's been the better driver on these types of tracks. And I think that right there, that the whole points battle narrative is going to be a big focus of this race. And Alex Bowman has said it too. He's like, I got to treat this race where I have to win it.
Yeah.
So that right there tells the tale.
I'm with you on that. My sleepers, I got John Hunter Nemechek. That's probably my favorite one. So JHN, we've seen 3 races here in the Cup Series. He's got 2 top 10s and a 15th place as well. Or I'm sorry, he's got 2 top 10s and a 15th. That is correct. This is the type of track here for JHN. He's been driving well in the second portion of the season, in my opinion. This is also someone that I'll bring it up here, but he's probably going to be a McChicken for me. See if he can just knock down the whole race, because he definitely has the potential to do something like that on a super speedway.
Truly, spoiler for my list, but JHN is on that too. Historically, he's finished 15th or better in all 5 of his Cup starts in NASCAR history at Daytona in the Cup Series. So that right there, he's been really, really good at this particular track. And he also finished 5th in the Daytona 500 earlier this season in that number 42 car for Legacy Motor Club. So gotta say, I like that a lot. And he has 2 top 10s at super speedway style tracks this season. So he does have some success at this style of racing here, Mark. You got 2 other names there that are really big salary savers. Why don't you get into that right there?
Yeah, so we talked about him a little bit when it came to Xfinity, but Austin Hill, $5,300. He's going to have – this is a guy that has track time. He's got track time in the Xfinity race. This is a guy who can race here very well. He's got 3 wins at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. Super speedways are his thing. Atlanta is his home track, as we know. So there's a lot going here for Austin Hill in the Cup race. And if there's probably one Cup race that he had circled for the ones that he's participated in this year, this is probably the big one. So Austin Hill at $5,300, I'll take a shot on that, especially because he's probably not going to qualify too well. And then Cody Ware, I'm throwing this out there because the price point is just so low at $4,900. But I had to do a double take. But Cody Ware has got some crazy numbers here. He had a top 4 last year in this exact race, or he had a 4th place last year in this exact race. We're seeing top 20s left and right. We're seeing he even finished. He went from 28th to 25th at $4,900 when he wrecked. That accident actually doesn't completely kill you because of how low his price point is. So Cody Ware at $4,900, I think he is probably less than 2% owned, and he's got data to back it up.
It's just tradition, Mark. Tradition, I tell you, when it comes to Cody Ware on these types of tracks, because what always happens is he's priced towards the bottom of every single DFS slate. at Daytona or Talladega or Atlanta. He ends up qualifying towards the back, just sits there, avoids all the wrecks, ends up finishing. He helps people cash. That's what happens nearly every single time. Every single time, I'd say, Mark.
Because think about it. He'll start 38th and he could finish 25th. But it's like that's 13 positions in place differential. That's 20, what is that? 26 points alone, in addition to getting a top 25. So it's like at $4,900, that's more than enough.
And the thing is that nobody, and I mean nobody, ever seems to really catch on to that. Ownership is always low for Cody Ware because people think of him as it being in that Rick Ware car as kind of like the joke car that never moves through the field. Yet it always does on this style of racing right there, too. And the crazy thing is, too, is that he's not the only driver there that is going to be in that same sort of circumstance. I'd argue that BJ McLeod is in very much the same kind of situation as Cody Ware, and that's going to split the ownership even more and just make both of these guys severely under-rostered.
This is totally the race to just take a shot and build your whole lineup with guys under 6K if you really want to. Like it's feasible. It can happen.
It's a good go-to cash game strategy right there. You just stick it in a lineup where there's like a lot of entries. Get guys that start about 30th on deck, put all of them as guys starting 30th on deck, and then just watch and maybe you'll just double your money by the end of it. Happens nearly every time.
It's crazy.
I've done this myself in order to test this. It works so often that it's kind of proven, Mark.
It is. I would agree. And you can probably win big too if you play it right. I'm curious about your guys because you got some different names in here, and I think there's some really good points to back up one of these names that I was eyeing down as well.
So I got Eric Jones on my list here, John Hunter Nemechek's teammate right here. I'm sure that's the name you were thinking of when you were like, this guy also I almost considered probably too. But historically, Eric Jones has been very solid at Daytona in the past. And another point to bring up is that he almost won the Daytona duels earlier this season too. If you can remember all the way back towards the Daytona Speed Weeks, it was him and Austin Cindric at the line for that dual win. And that, man, if only they raced it back to the line, we could have been talking about Eric Jones as a Daytona dual winner earlier this season instead of Austin Cindric right there, because that 43 car is one of the few Toyotas that I think will have some speed and definitely have the results to back it up right there. So I like Eric Jones quite a lot this week. And I think not enough people are going to pay attention to him, especially because he's another one of those drivers that needs to win in order to get into the playoffs too, Mark.
He does a really good job of taking care of his car as well. So it's another, that's another point and a beautiful stack when you can pair him up with a John Hunter Nemechek, both low price points.
100% right there too. And then the other driver that I have is, we've mentioned him before in many other different various weeks in different capacities, but it's Ty Dillon. We're going over there and giving Ty Dillon his respect and due again, because he's another driver out there that's known for his reputation for just finishing races. And then he's in that Kaulig Racing number 10. Kaulig Racing, they're the type of team that ends up, they seem to be a little bit overlooked when it comes to their speed at times. And I think that also applies to this kind of track as well, too. Even though I think Ty Dillon might qualify a little bit better than some of these lower priced drivers, I do think, though, that he has a better tendency in order to finish compared to most of them, too. And considering how cheap he is this week, I mean, he's only $5,100 on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, he is only $5,000. You can definitely easily fit him in and make it so you can fit anybody else right there, and then have a driver that could easily make a run at a top 10 if the circumstances go right.
Yeah, the theme here is this is really like roulette because you don't know who's going to get wrecked out. But I agree. That's another name that You can see taking care of the car, and I think that's a really good point to make. As much as we're chasing place differential, when you get a guy that low of a price point, if he qualifies well, not only is it probably a sign that he's got a fast car, but there's a good chance that he can hang just around mid pack as well. So it's like if Ty Dillon qualifies 14th, I'm all game, right? Because if he just maintains a top 15 position, he's more than paying off.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that is that when you get drivers that qualify around the top 15, that's going to make their ownership drop too, because some of the people are just going to be focused purely on the place differential aspect, and I think that is a sneaky way to get different in a GPP.
For sure. Yep, for sure.
Let's get into our DFS core fours right here, Mark. So I'll go on ahead and name mine right here. I almost went with no top price driver in my core, but in the end, I just couldn't get away from Brad Keselowski at 9,600 on DraftKings and then 12,500 on FanDuel. Then I got Alex Bowman at 7,800 on DraftKings and 8,000 on FanDuel. Eric Jones at 6,300 on DraftKings and 5,500 on FanDuel. And then rounding it out with the last guy I just talked about there, Ty Dillon at 5,100 on DraftKings and 5,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I got so I'm mirroring you with Brad and Bowman. And that makes me feel really good about building my true core lineup around those two because we're both on them. I got John Hunter Nemechek I threw in there. So I love the concept of maybe blending our two cores and combining those two guys in a lineup there. And then I threw out Bubba Wallace too. $8,300. It's like that's the type of driver that could win the race or give you a top 5, but still only qualify like 17th or 18th. So I love going after Bubba because you can blend him in with all these cheap guys who are maybe starting 25th and finish 15th, that type of thing. But you have to, if you want to knock down a tournament, you still got to get guys that are cracking the top 5, even in a place differential type of tournament like this. So, Bubba Wallace, I think, certainly has the potential there and love throwing him in, given his recent success and the fact that he's going to be chasing checkered flags.
Oh, yeah. And just so you know, too, I did just plug all the drivers we discussed into one DraftKings lineup, and it fits with 6,700 to spare on DraftKings.
Beautiful. So you can do all kinds of stuff with that.
Yeah. All the 6 drivers we technically named, you could fit them all easily in one lineup. And even change them to somebody else you preferred with no issue at all.
I think I might just ride that, man. I might just roll the dice and ride what you just said, and just do one lineup and see what happens.
All right. If we enter that into a lineup and then it ends up winning hugely, we are clipping this so that way we're posting it later and rolling the tape.
And being like, who jumped on the lineup train, and just see like 30 Fantasy Guru subscribers and all of us just on the same win.
Oh man, I'm totally gonna clip this if that actually happens. Totally going to. So there you go. Betting core fours for winners. So I've got Ryan Blaney at plus 1,100, Brad Keselowski at plus 1,200, Kyle Busch at plus 1,500, and Alex Bowman at plus 2,200 in order to win the race right there for my core 4 betting winners. Who do you got?
Yeah, you and I are very similar. I got Busch, Brad, and Bowman as well in my betting core 4. I think this is the range to be within, is this plus 1,000 to plus 2,500 range. I threw out Chris Buescher too, plus 1,800. I thought he's an interesting option that we haven't talked about a whole lot here. We talked about him, but he's a play that maybe if he doesn't make it into that lineup that you do in DFS, you still get exposure to him here in your core 4.
I do agree that I think that is a good approach to have. I almost consider Chris Buescher as well. Just the circumstances line up for him in order to probably be competitive for a win this week. So there you go. Getting into the other bets and picks this week. I'll let you go first because you have a much smaller list than I do this week.
Yeah. So DraftKings, you can find this on Hard Rock actually with even better odds. But John Hunter Nemechek as the top Toyota. Toyotas, if you look at the list of Toyota drivers, it's not nearly as terrifying as going up against the list of the Chevy and the Ford. So John Hunter Nemechek, you can get that for plus 1,200 as the top Toyota on DraftKings, plus 1,400 on Hard Rock for anyone betting in Florida. And then I got two McChickens that I'll throw out here just because we are talking about a super speedway. And that's going to be with my value plays that I referenced. John Hunter Nemechek plus 6,000 to win outright the race. And then I'll take a guy who's won 3 Xfinity races here at Daytona, Austin Hill, at plus 8,000. Both a couple McChicken price points there.
Yeah, you got the 2 McChicken meal. Love it this week. Well, guess what? I'm doing that too, except, well, I'm sharing one of the same drivers as you with JHN to win at plus 6,000. But I also got his teammate Eric Jones as my other McChicken long shot winner at plus 4,500. Still pretty good overall and still fairly deep. I think I like Eric Jones a little bit better in order to get that victory because he's been a little bit closer to winning one of these at Daytona than JHN has, but still like both of them this week in order to get it done. I have a list of top 10s right here. Chris Buescher at top 10 at minus 115. Alex Bowman, top 10 at plus 100. Carson Hocevar, top 10 in order to get his 4th one of the season at a super speedway race at plus 130. Eric Jones, once again, shows up here with the top 10 at plus 180. Ty Dillon with the top 10 at plus 240. And same thing with JHN at plus 240. And then give me Austin Hill top 10 at plus 350. And then I have some group winners right here too. It may be a little bit bald in order to consider these at this stage of the game, but I think I'm feeling it this week in order to get some early on here for Daytona. So Group A winner, that's between Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, Chase Elliott, and William Byron. Give me Austin Cindric at plus 240. Group C, that's between Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Denny Hamlin. Give me Kyle Busch at plus 220. And then Group D, that's between Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Chris Buescher, and Bubba Wallace. Give me Chris Buescher or Bubba Wallace at both of them at plus 250. Then you take all those different groups together, you can stick them into a parlay, and that puts it at plus 3708 if the parlay hits.
Let's do it. I'm up for it.
Yeah. And just so you know, because the Group D drivers, Chris Buescher and Bubba Wallace, are at the same odds. No matter who you plug in for that parlay, it's the same odds either way.
Nice. Yeah, and those top 10s, I mean, that's a really solid group there because same concept. You get 2 of those that hit, you're probably, it's like you get a Bowman and an Austin Hill, you're way in the green. You get Bowman, Buescher, and Hocevar, you're in the green. So there's a lot of combinations there that make you profitable with that whole group.
And you know what? Considering how many different drivers can get a top 10 this week, even drivers that I haven't mentioned here, like some of the favorites that are even at minus odds, you can throw a bunch of them together into some smaller parlays or even do a round robin or 2, and that could actually really pay off this week. That might be the way to go if you're looking at doing a bunch of top 10 bets instead of just spreading it out through winner bets right there. And that could also end up paying out big time right there too.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we're trying to aim for this week, Mark. 100%.
100% victory
100%
at a super speedway.
Yeah. But man, that's going to end up doing it for this week's Race Guru Thunder Hour right here. Mark, it's always great to have you on, talk some NASCAR with you, and we got ourselves the last race of the regular season. So overall, what do you think? Do you have any parting words before we see how the regular season for Cup finally wraps up here?
I think it's going to be a pretty intense race. And, especially if you put money on it, expect some fireworks towards the end of this thing. because there's going to be a lot of intensity, a lot of guys going for that last spot. Could be some new drivers in the mix that could completely throw a wrench into a bunch of guys that have points, their plans. So this should be a fun one to watch. And I can't believe we're already going into the playoffs, but football season's about to start too. So, man, it's here.
Yeah. Just think of it this way. We're only going to get 1 week of playoff racing before the NFL regular season starts. So put that into perspective right there, NASCAR, about your scheduling.
I know, right? Man, that is tough. I agree.
Yeah, very tough. Well, be sure to follow me on the different social media platforms at SeanE247. You can find it right there on screen. And then you can follow Mark at DFS Marlin. You can catch him over there posting about any victories he's ended up fishing up. So there you go.
And I got a lot of preseason content. I've been doing preseason NFL. I'm gonna have a big slate this Saturday too. So keep an eye out for that. We crushed it last weekend doing NFL preseason. So if you want something to also help you build your bankroll or go a little bit heavier on, as crazy as this sounds, I'm locked in on it, and feel free to follow that content too.
Yeah, as you're also covering the Cup Series this week too, right?
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
Yeah, Mark's pulling some double duty right there. So he's going to try to put on his best Austin Hill or Justin Haley performance this week there and try to see if he could get 2 for 2. So there you go.
It's all about track time.
Yeah, getting right in there. Love it. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching this or listening to this week's RaceGuru Thunder Hour. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments if you enjoyed this show, and be sure to follow us, interact with us further. And thank you all so much for checking us out, and we will see you all next time. Take care and good luck. May the winners be yours in victory lane.